Just wanted to talk a little about brakes today, specifically brakes for those running small wheels without anti-lock brakes, like myself in my 1971 Chevelle. The common thought is that you cannot run good brakes under 15-inch wheels, that you need to run 17, 18, 19-inch wheels to fit your 13, 14, or 15-inch rotors. This is not necessarily true. First, you need to know how you want your car, how you intend to use your car. Do you plan on having an original pairing muscle car? Do you want to have a pro touring car, a show car? Do you want to have a race car? Do you plan on cruising to the local car shows, doing road trips? Do you plan on drag racing the car? Do you want to take the car to an autocross or road course? These are things you need to know. Another very important thing to keep in mind is that the brakes slow the wheels. The tires stop the car. So if you can already easily lock the brakes, then you have more brakes than the tires can handle. Now, these are the stock brakes from my 1971 Chevelle, or otherwise A-body. Honestly, they work quite well, especially if you run an upgraded brake pad. However, the rest of the brake system must be functioning properly to get the proper performance out of them. So if you have power brakes and you put a big camshaft in your engine, or you have a mini booster, you may not be getting the proper amount of vacuum to have the proper amount of brake assist. You may need to aid the vacuum boost or even go to a hydro boost to give the proper or the sufficient amount of line pressure. These are 11 inches by 1 inch thickness. They have straight cooling vanes and a large single piston floating caliper. Now, these will fit under most 15-inch wheels out there. However, they're very heavy and they also lack cooling capacity. Now, there are kits that are designed to fit under 15-inch wheels. Wilwood offers a few, but I often hear about people upgrading to these fancy kits and they complain that the braking is not any better or maybe even worse. You come to find out that these kits use maybe a small 11-inch by 0.081-inch rotor, and the caliper has less clamping force than the stock one. So already you're down in clamping force, and you've lost some thermal capacity, and you've not increased the leverage of the rotor. There's also some brake clearance issues. You may not fit under the wheels that you have. Though you do shed a lot of unsprung weight with this, and you have a larger selection of brake pads, and those are two good things. Without increasing the rotor diameter and having a weaker caliper, you need to increase your line pressure. And to do that, you can go from, say, the stock master cylinder bore of 1 1/8. You go to a 1-inch bore, and that will greatly increase the line pressure, increase the performance of these small brake kits. But you can do what I did, and you can create your own. Now, this is an 11 3/4-inch rotor by 1.25, so it's slightly more leverage, it's got more cooling capacity. I'm running a Wilwood Superlite 4-piston caliper. Well, let me go over a few myths. First, the number of pistons in the caliper does not determine your clamping force. The clamping force of the caliper is determined by the piston area, so the amount of area in the pistons all combined. In fact, the stock piston from the stock caliper actually has more piston area, thus more clamping force than this Wilwood. So I've actually reduced my clamping pressures. In fact, I've never seen a multi-piston caliper have more piston area than the stock caliper for Chevelles. The benefit of the multi-piston is you get a more even distribution of pressure over the brake pads on both sides. You get a stiffer design, so there's less flex when you're hitting the brake pedal. If you have different piston sizes, so one larger than the other, it'll actually reduce the pad taper. Also, being aluminum, they're generally lighter, generally a lot lighter than the originals. A lot of people think that the best rotors out there are the cross-drilled and slotted rotors. And for a steel one, that's just not the case. When running on a road course, the extreme brake temperatures will often cause cracking. So you have your holes right here, and there'll be some cracks between those. Not good. Some will say that these holes and the slots will help remove the gases caused from the brake pad. Today's brake pads, it's not really a factor. So again, a bit of a myth. The slots, however, these are a good thing. Not only do they clean the brake pad surface, they can also provide a biting surface, I guess. So as the pad rolls over it or slides over, there's that edge right there, which will help grab the brake pad. Now I do drive my car on the road course. Now the track I go to is not necessarily hard on brakes like you would say from Road America or another track that has very long or very high speeds, is slow to really slow speeds. My track that I go to, it's too short to provide any kind of cooling distances. There's no place to really cool the brakes. So my race weight is around 3,900 pounds with driver, so it's a heavy car. The brakes are still too small for what I run, so I see these extreme temperatures. Now the brake I originally went with was a Wilwood GT48. It has 48 vanes. It's again 11.75 by 1.25. Has the slots, no drills. You know, it really looked the part. I liked what it was going to do. Got to the track and you can see the grooves. You know, I destroyed it in one day. So now technically I did 2 track sessions with this. First time out I used the Wilwood BP10 brake pad. Second time out I used the BP20 brake pad, and I pushed it a little harder. Not only did I wreck the rotor, but I also went through a full set of brake pads in one day. So I wasn't too impressed, and I felt like I needed to make some changes, which brings me to what I currently have. Now this is the AP Racing J-hook rotor, same size, 11.75 by 1.25. The advantages of this one over the Wilwood is this one has 60 vanes. They're curved vanes. The Wilwood's curved as well, but this one's got 60 vanes, so it's got more airflow through it. The J-hooks, the number of slots is a big increase, which again helps that bite into the pad, but also it helps control the temperature over the entire rotor. So with the Wilwood, with these big spaces, you might be hotter in one area versus the middle, whereas this, the temperature is going to be more even across the entire rotor surface. Another thing that I did was the brake ducts. So I'm running a 3-inch brake duct all the way through. Now my design is pretty inefficient, to be honest with you. I've designed it to look stock from the outside. You can hardly notice it. It just sucks in the air from down here as the air passes on the NAC ducts, and it flows through. Now if you're running brake ducts, you want to direct that flow of air to the center of your rotor, okay? So into the middle of the hat. The reason for that is it's the cooling vanes that are bringing through the airflow. You want the air to flow through and come out through the vanes. If you direct the flow onto the surface of the rotor, all you're going to do is cool that one spot on the one side and not get proper cooling through your entire rotor. You want the core of the rotor to be cool, not just the surface. The other thing I've done is I went to a Wilwood BP, not a BP, I went to a B compound spec, a brake pad. The idea is that the temperature range of this pad is a lot higher than the BP20. So I mean, when we're talking 1,000 degrees, this thing needs to be happy in that zone. Speaking of brake pads, piston or the pad volume is very important when we're talking road course racing. Drag racing, not such a big deal. Same thing with street driving, not such a big deal. But if you're road course racing, the volume, so the thickness of it and whatnot, it helps with cooling capacity. So you want a pad that's going to have a thicker pad is better than a pad with more area on it. So not only does it help with thermal capacity, but it also helps with your pad wear. So as this drains out, you still got pad life. The last thing I want to say is, regardless of if you're doing road course racing or if you're just driving and you're really heating up the brakes for long periods of time, get good brake fluid. I use the ATE Type 200. It's a little expensive, but it has a very good wet and dry boiling point. 280 degrees dry, 198 degrees Celsius in the wet. So get good brake fluid. You don't want to boil your brakes. Thanks for watching.